Right, so I've kind of got my head around this now. So from the to try and put it a little bit more simpler and shorter dialogue without going on for hours and hours. So what Robert F. Kennedy said the other day in the interview with the woman with the red hair on his channel on the Robert F. Kennedy campaign on YouTube. So they're basically disclosing and giving evidence of very unsavoury and unethical practices in the corporate business sector to do with policies and legal actions, suits. It's like this whole Dragon's Den model have been pushing on television, and then they've got the whole Sir Alan Sugar thing. All the companies are falling under these dragons and falling under these, bigger BlackRock Vanguard investments and so forth. So they're not treating us very well. Now, the main complaints are over rights, particularly political rights. And we know that they're obstructing us in the petitions committee and putting standards there that aren't supported by statute law or standing orders of parliament or even in any legislation. They're putting very unjust standards that aren't really standards. It's not any punctuation or grammar standard. They're even admitting things that you have a lawful right to petition for and bring grievance of, claiming you can't do it. So their standards are actually really not standards. As an impartial government, they're actually being biased, and it's political party biased. And the political party biased is very much aligned. What we're finding is that these political party biasts are very aligned with these corporate biasts. Now, Tony Blair, when he ingeniously invented this freedom of information and made a big deal out of it, I think it is a big deal, but it's a big deal to big corporate global interests and world people beyond leaders, as Charles says, people beyond leaders, leaders and people beyond leaders, and the relationship of leaders with people who are beyond leaders. Because you see, at the moment, they've got this panic thing where they think that, if people have this immunity when they've got the right to petition and investigate like police, but at a higher level, like, a parliamentary casework level, and they have immunities, what they're going to do, they're going to get all this confidential information, Coca-Cola secret recipe or God knows what. But the thing is, Tony Blair championed and he sold. Tony Blair was the salesman for the term, the ideology, and the definition into the mainstream status quo of the public arena, freedom of information. Like, hey, everybody, information should be free, and we're going to let you ask anything you want, any questions, or we might charge you if it takes a long time to do it, but you can ask questions, Prime Minister's questions, ask the government questions about departments of government or any part of government. The ironic thing is that I actually believe that because all companies in England are Companies House, they're Companies House companies, I think that all business falls under freedom of information through Companies House, because every office is a company of Companies House. Some companies, when freedom of information was like all the rage and was like very cool and trendy and brand new, people were submitting freedom of information to companies, and they because it was all the talk, they kind of like, if it didn't take them too much time, if they weren't getting too many, if you're just a random company, you might get odd request, how many widgets have you sold or whatever. They weren't too bothered, and some of them would reply because it was kind of like, at the time, it was kind of like the norm, and it was like all, it was in the public consciousness, let's say, right? But now it couldn't be more the opposite. Companies will not tell you anything. They don't want to answer any questions. They won't disclose anything. They're very protective. It's almost gone anti-freedom of information. But yeah, apparently we can get it about the government, but not about these corporate companies. But what's happened is they've turned it around the other way. So they're gathering information on us. And what would have been regarded as stalking or very odd, strange behaviour to a policeman, say 30, 40 years ago, if some guy in a trench coat from, as long as it went, IRS, as long as it was, I don't know, someone Enterprise, Industry Limited, was following you around saying, "Oh, Mr. Johnson has just bought 3 widgets. I'll write that down." And then, now he's just gone into the shop. He seems to like, red jackets. I'll write that down. If people were doing this, and they weren't, a police officer investigating them, for an inquiry, it's, Ronnie Briggs, why is he going buying, when they were going around getting compost manure to make explosives or whatever, if you just, taking information down on him for no investigative reason, it would be, I think it's stalking. I mean, literally, when you're recording, everywhere, if you've got notes on where someone's planning to go on holiday, that, you've got all their holidays written down and the holiday plans for the next 4 years. This is the thing out of Columbo. This is the thing out of Murder, She Wrote. This is the thing out of, Death in Paradise. These are people who would pursue such informations on persons, and then, they know that, they're going to be at a certain place at a certain time, how long it takes them to get in and out of the building, all this data, many advantages, so Tony Blair says, many advantages, right? This would be crime, and I still think it is in law. I don't think the law's changed that much, and I'm absolutely certain that the police, if a person was going around doing this in person, of what type of thing they're doing to you on the phone that we can't really see, because it's all concealed, it would be stalking. It definitely would be. You would prosecute for stalking, and I can guarantee that if it was making the person feel uncomfortable as well, you would get a conviction out of it. And I don't know what's happened, but Tony Blair threw a stone, like when you throw a stone into water and watch it bounce and skip, like a skipping stone. And it went skip to David Cameron, sold off all the businesses of, like Royal Mail and so forth. That was all people's information and private information about their mail. A lot of it was required for democratic function. They threw a skipping stone, and we've ended up now with that there is quite the opposite of freedom of information, really. They don't want to give any information, but they've got all the information on us. I think what Tony Blair started off with was to get us all okay and all right with information being free. I think they thought, right, we want to get the information off everyone and we want to know everything, so we'll go first. We'll stick the toe in. We'll make it look like it's okay to do this. So well, come on then, ask us anything you want, come into the government, have information, ask us whatever you want. This actually enabled all the private companies that were slowly being bought up to actually scan the government and find out everything about it, literally, and then also take over contracts and gain advantages, and then even take the companies off them with from Tony Blair, then you go to David Cameron, then they're buying all the companies and getting into the government after they've got all the information on it, and then what happens is it's no longer cool, because we've got all these online cyber criminals that they conjured up and so forth. Then, no, we can't tell you anything. Don't tell anyone anything anymore. even though we're meant to be evolving in altruistic evolution as humans, then, don't tell anyone anything. No one's trustworthy. And now they've completely brick-walled all information and dialogue. They don't want to answer any questions, these companies, and they've got clauses where, they can terminate you for any reason and no reason. And then they've actually, their policies of kind of like almost, David Cameron said it was going to be competitively priced, but what he meant is that him and his peers were going to compete against us, so we couldn't afford any prices, and then we can't afford to take them to court. We can't afford to sue them. In the small claims court online is not to win. What you want to win is you want to win a point of law. You want to win the point of law that I'm right, you're wrong. Because it's not about, they've set up the small claims court online that it's all about money, right? Oh, give me some money. Well, that's them paying you off, what it comes down to at the end of the day is if they pay you off. But, if you're right and they're wrong on a major point, then it affects everyone, why what are YouTube doing with the tax for digital services, which is actually what I wanted to talk about in this. So, focusing more now on eBay, with this in mind, now the thing with Neil Mohan, the chosen one, and Rishi Sunak, is that Sunak presents himself as this very family-friendly, modernist, technocrat, very, like Neil Mohan, that they're very up to date with the modern technology. They like modern technology. They want to advance and innovate modern technology, but yet they're claiming they don't, all the things that, YouTube and all these platforms are doing. You got Nick Clegg saying the government are way, way, way behind, Oh, the government are so far behind us, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and, Jeff Bezos, they need to catch up. But yet, that's a deception and a lie because, Rishi Sunak and Neil Mohan couldn't be better buddies. They are on the cutting edge of the technology, in fact, trying to push it with the new Department of Innovation and Technology. They're pretending they're not up with it so they can have an excuse for not enacting loads of new laws. Now, if Rishi Sunak, what gets me is Sunak and the most of British Parliament are obsessed with rights at the moment. Oh, we've got people kicking off, complaining. We need to, make loads of new laws for, the Public Order Act and things like that. Yet, if they would be as equally concerned and alarmed with what is happening in these platforms, the policies these platforms are making, we can terminate your account for any reason or no reason. Well, even if it's, criminal, well, no, you can't terminate it for that reason because it's unlawful. It would be an illegal, it would be an offence, a criminal offence. So, I don't think you can have a policy that even if it's against the law and it's dealt with separately, I don't think the policy could say, we can break the law because that's illegal. It's unlawful. Surely. So you can't have a policy that purports that you can do something unlawful because that would be against the law. And then you've got all the, accept cookies, psychology. Now they've got one on eBay, which is you're all caught up. Oh, now you're all caught up now, aren't you? You're all caught up in this, Well, are you all, are you caught up with mankind? Are you caught up with the pinnacle cutting edge of, technocrats? Are you all caught up with trillionaires? Are you all caught up with billionaires? Have you caught up with them in your finances? Or are you caught up in the intricate web of consumerism and addiction to foods, their products, and, shopping, loose women and, online shopping and whatever, you're all caught up in their web of influences like a little lab rat on a hamster wheel. You're all caught up in our web. And then to put the, nail in the coffin, your parents on the tablet or whatever, talking to the phone or talking to the tablet, going, find me some pictures of, some, God knows what, coins or something, right? And it's like, I found this on the web. Like some little kind of familiar or gremlin, some kind of little machine elf you've got working for you. I found this for you on the web. But what it makes me think of is that, these things don't serve us, they serve them. And what I don't like about it is it's like these tools with these gimmicky, really annoying and quite sinister voices, they are the servants of one master. They're making it look like, oh, it's all working for you. Oh, I found this for you. No, they've got the web. They've got the spider's web, and they are getting all the data on us. So, the AI bots are their servants. They are constantly searching for things on their web, which they are weaving into our lives, which I think it's stalking. And the government, are claiming now, it's, for safety, security, and, we've got to look out for terrorists. Sue Hall's like, we've got to look out for terrorists, right? All the time. But we didn't have any problems. I've just been looking at the magistrates' courts lists for Bromley, because there's been some political cases in there. And, there are a lot of foreign names on there. I'm not saying all of them, but there are a large number of, Abduls and Mohammeds in there. At least over 50%, I would say, of the names appear to me to be, not Jack Smith. They're more like, Muhammad Ali or, Motswava Bidanki or whatever. So a lot of the crime is imported, whether you like that fact or not, it's a fact. You don't discriminate when you read facts off the page, it's factual evidence for whatever reason. And you've also got the, all these cameras and surveillance and so forth. I think that it's a good business model if your business is surveillance cameras and crime. It's a brilliant business model to get more business. And I don't know whether... The worst thing is the police aren't even solving that many other crimes when it comes to, what they seem to be doing now is the magistrates' courts look to be full with quite simple crimes. And there's a lot less complex crimes. I know they still have complex crimes, but there've been reports that a lot of crimes are not getting solved by the police, a lot more difficult crimes, because, they're so busy. And even if you did have some sort of what I would regard as a complex strategic crime, which, involved, planning, forensics and so forth, even though, a lot of police say that this television crime is a load of tosh, but, and it's, Madeleine McCann level sort of crimes, they're not going to have the resources or manpower to solve them, And I think that ultimately the idea is that they're going to get AI to start gathering facts on people, all the time, so they have like a supercomputer that can answer any question about anyone. And I don't think that is a good idea for us. If you have a country that doesn't have much crime, right, then you've got no... If you, have a model of a country and, you just make it and there isn't hardly any crime, why would you need to surveillance for crime or terrorism? You wouldn't. And that surely would be the target or goal. But how do you get there? It seems like the only way they're claiming they can get there is if we have absolute, complete, total surveillance. Absolute surveillance and microchipping and everything, and that is the only way they're going to be able to get a grip on us to make us obedient enough so there is no crime, which means that they want to really psychologically influence us and physically control us and force us to have no crime. At that point, you're in shackles. Now, once they've got to that point, who's holding the shackles? Likely the robots and machines. Are they going to push a button and then just shut them off and let us all go? It's almost like agreeing to the company policy, isn't it? Agree, submit to the company policy. And on that point, that's why I don't like this new option they've got. I'm not a robot. I'm not a robot. I'm not a robot. Oh, aren't you? I'm not a robot. You tick that box, but once you tick that box, you're agreeing to all their policies, and that literally signs away. What these companies are doing is getting you to give up all your humanness, all your everything that's freedom and human, not even illegal. You'd have thought that the law was sufficient enough to govern people, but these companies are, going a leap and bound further than the law. The law clearly isn't enough for these companies, Why would you even need any policy at all? Shouldn't the legislation of the country that you live in perfectly serve all its citizens in business and leisure? Why need policies with intricate and ridiculous clauses if the law is not good enough? So to me, it seems like, everything that, really they can't get away with doing in the legislation because the citizens won't put up with it, they're doing it in their company policy because they can only get away with it by you signing up. I'm not a robot, but you become a robot because once you tick that box and said, I'm not a robot, you become their little bot. You become their little bot boy with no rights, their little bot boy with no, political rights. You become their little boss boy, company policy. And if they're buying up all these services and every service has got these contracts and agreements to use that service, you end up, there's no service you can use that you don't agree to their policy with. So what would be the point in having a country and a kingdom with legislation that is every single service, once they've purchased them all, you instantly have to even be allowed to use it. They won't agree to let you even use their services until you've signed away to their policy, which is another metaverse of a reality and laws to what the country is. So effectively, you don't really have a government and laws, or you can't use it. It's almost like, it's like it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's like literally being given a straitjacket, you're free to walk around the room as long as you agree to wear the straitjacket. So, the laws of the country are, you can do what you want in this room. That's the law. But our company policy is you must wear the straitjacket. So therefore, there's this, as the room's now, owned by the company, you have to wear the straitjacket, even though the law doesn't say that, but the company policy does. So, no one would agree to that. That's just an example. I mean, it's a bit of a crazy example. It's like it's like an Iron Maiden album cover, isn't it? But now so just going back to this eBay model, which is actually what I wanted to make the video about. So the model with eBay is this. So what I found is that even you can type art in, and you can put different types of art category. But I purchased something from eBay and it was in the art category. Art's meant to be tax-free, or at least handmade art. And it didn't get the VAT. It was not supposed to be VAT. And I had to pay like $30 VAT. So I'm not too sure if they give VAT back at a later stage, but why collect it if you're going to give it back? It's almost like, like when they take the money off you temporarily and then they're making interest off it. And if they're doing that from loads and loads of people, they're making loads and loads and loads of interest. And then, we'll give it back now. We didn't need to take it. They've held your money for a while and made interest out of it and then giving you it back. I think there's some of that going on with eBay, a little bit like on the Fiverr website. They do that. They hold money for a certain amount of time. You pay, and then they hold your money until the service is complete, and then they transfer the money into the to the person who provided the services. So they've got an incubation period where they're making loads and loads of interest out of the money. I'm starting to think eBay do that when they take VAT in between taking it and giving it back, because looking at the categories, it's very hard to find the categories that are VAT free. They've got books. They can't charge VAT on books. But, you know, Jeff Bezos is, you know, he deals in books. That's his main business. But as for the other categories, I'm finding it very hard to find, you know, like handbills, you know, when you type it in. I don't find the category for handbills, and I've tried to even type it in manually. I found some people who've listed handbills, but I think that's just in the title, not in the category. I don't seem to find adverts in advertising either, or like leaflets or anything. So I'll have to have another look. But the main grievance with eBay is this. So what I think they're doing is this, right? And I'm not saying that it's any, you know, the staff are just doing what they're told. I think the staff are victims just like us, but victims who are under, you know, advanced command of, you know, superiors, basically. So, you know, they're being paid and told what to do all day. So, you know, they're in a regime that is, you know, to the interests of the corporate entity. I don't think that particularly any of the staff are bad, but I think the people who own it and in charge of it know exactly what they're doing. And that is this. So, and particularly on YouTube as well, there's a model, and the model is this, right? If you are a Group 9 body, which is educational, charitable, or political, or religious, then Group 9 bodies don't have to pay tax, right? As long as you don't go over a certain amount. Now, the thing is, once you are successful and grow, then you have to register, and then you have to register for tax, but also, you know, register your charity or register your political party or whatever, you know, if you've got a political party. So, now, how do you get big, though? How do you get big, like, you know, Oxfam or, you know, these Greenpeace or these other big charities? Or how do you get big like a political party? Well, you've got to be successful, right? You've got to be successful, even if you're a little small political movement or whatever. But in order to become successful, you need to be able to start up. Now, on both YouTube and eBay, they're not recognizing small political charitable bodies. And they've got it into the industry at large, all the sectors at large, where they've trained and groomed people, even on, you know, Royal Mail and so forth, that registered charity. They've got this monkey term, this throw-out term, this conditioning, repeatable slogan, which is registered charity. So it makes everyone think that you have to be registered to charity to not pay tax, but you don't. Now, how do you become a big charity, a big registered one? Is you've got to be a successful small body, right? Now, if they're not allowing you, if they're making you pay tax when you not have to, you're not going to be very successful, because you won't be able to do more and more and more and more and grow big the proper way without paying tax, right? So these unjust restrictions that they're putting, they're effectively not, they're refusing to recognise or even facilitate, that's the word, they're not facilitating for recognition of all charitable, political, spiritual, or educational bodies. And think places like, YouTube and eBay, and also TuneCore, and when you're putting music out or adverts, audio material, digital services online like YouTube. So now what YouTube did is got to be the king prize prime maneuver, and that is this. It's a big platform and it's global, right? So you'd have thought they wanted to get like their, lawful. You'd have thought that they'd wanted to do it lawfully, because they were so obsessed with the copyright, getting the copyright lawful. Every video's got to be meticulously scanned. Every video on YouTube must be meticulously scanned. Nothing gets by without being scanned, right? And then triggering it. Universal Studios gets its money. Warner Brothers gets its money, right? Meticulously scanned. They set it all up. They were far from being concerned, far from being bothered about, and far from being sympathetic to these religious, charitable, educational, and political bodies, right? Particularly because you don't have to pay VAT, tax, and it's good because you're doing good work for people, or you might make political change, or have a religious, order, or help people learn education. But they just, now what YouTube don't ban educational videos. They don't ban charitable videos. They don't ban political videos, not for being political in genre, and they don't ban religious videos, because that would be against your rights. You've got right of religious freedom and so forth. These are the things that why they're meant to be inviting people into countries, and, less religious discrimination, less racial discrimination. We're meant to accept all these religions, but if we're accepting all these religious groups and religions, and they're big on that, why haven't they got their exemptions, and why aren't they able to fundraise? Now, what I found on YouTube is this: rather than, when they got the monetization going, all they had to do was let people classify. They do it through adverts. They've really got to do it through the advertisements. They really have to do it through the adverts, because, you're handing money over, it's providing the service. Now, with the channels, it's free, but they're offering monetization, and there's monetization involved. Now, what happened is they could have gone either way. They could have done it lawfully and properly, or they could have been a pain, and they decided to be awkward and be a pain. And what they did is they started finding certain channels and going, oh, you're not eligible for our monetization, right? And the thing is, what they were really saying is, oh, you've got a channel that's, it seems like it's a special class, political, religious, charitable, or educational. Actually, it's a special class where, you should really be able to monetize without having to pay VAT, right? So what they did is they said, right, no, we just won't monetize them. We're not going to monetize you at all. You're not eligible for monetization. Now, I think that is discrimination, because they're doing all these laws, like Priti Patel and Rishi Sunak are so obsessed with their racism and their, equality. But what they do with, eBay and YouTube, Pierre Odignat and Neil Mohan style people like Rishi, technocrats, these mainly ethnical technocrats who have, supposedly been champions of, freedom of religion and race, what they've done is they've actually gone to these special classes like, religious groups, political groups, charitable groups, and they said, actually, instead of doing the right thing, which is like, wow, I'd not being one to discriminate, being the last person on the list to discriminate, seeing that we're fiercely opposed to discrimination, the most fiercely opposed to discrimination you can get on the face of planet Earth, Neil Mohan, Pierre Ogden and Rishi Sunak, the fiercest advocates against racial discrimination. Now they're big rich businessmen with a lot of money. What do? Go straight to the specific Group 9 bodies, little tiny ones, little ant people. Oh, you got a little religious body, have you? Oh, you got a little political body, have you? Oh, you got a little educational body, have you? A little charitable body, have you? Instead of going, yes, we love these religious sects, these political sects, these charitable sects. Yes, we love that. What they've done is, instead of helping these to grow, because they're such fierce opposition to racial discrimination, instead of going to them and saying, "Oh, we love this," we love these little religious groups, these political and charitable groups. What they've done is they've actually, instead of saying, "Yes, we're going to classify you, and then you won't have to pay tax," and then once they grow and nurture them and help them without having to pay tax, because it's illegal to pay tax, by the way, and then growing them into big political bodies, big charitable bodies, big religious bodies, and big educational bodies, independent ones, and then saying, right, we've helped you grow, and now we've helped you grow up to, wow, £25,000-30,000 a year turnover through our monetization assistance. Now, once you've got to a certain level, beep, 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 there's a little buzzer gone off. Oh, it's time to pick the bananas. Now you can register with government. Now you can be a registered charity. Now you can be a registered political party. Now you can be a registered religion. Now you can be a registered educational department. Now, haven't you done well? Didn't you do well in our program? And now you can be a fully operational registered one. Now, what have they created then? Well, they've created new religions, new political parties, not their political party, new educational groups, and new charities. Turning up and giving bacon sandwiches out of Rishi Sunak. What they've actually done is the proper lawful way of how you get to be in a charity, get to be in a religious religion, and get to be in a political group. So what they've done is they've literally poured the poison on them at the early stages. They poured the poison on them. Why? Because corporate entities, BlackRock, Vanguard, don't want there to be successful political groups, successful charities, successful religions, and successful educational departments that aren't controlled by them. And it's going to be controlled by them when it's on YouTube or eBay, because they own it. But, with its own mission or goal, this is the thing with all the small surf companies that they went and bought out, sold out. They all sold out, Roxy, O'Neill, anything cool, they're walking around. Oh, this is a nice flower, dandelion, I'll have that, is this, this is what Dragon's Den are doing, going around picking flowers. Oh, that's doing well, I'll have that, and I'll have that. They're just taking possession of them all. The problem with political organisations and groups and charities is if it's not under their control or it's opposed to them. and it can actually get them out of government and get someone else in government, or charities that, this is why people are questioning what these charities are actually really up to behind the scenes, particularly when you've got these non-profits and so forth that don't have to disclose where the money's coming from, if you can even get monetized and get any money. So it's clearly evident now that they've actually been doing it illegally, because I think that on eBay and on, they've cleverly written all they can. It's impossible to get rid of books, because books are like, it's too obvious, and Jeff Bezos has made a lot of books anyway. Amazon, you don't pay tax on books because they're educational, but all the other categories have been carefully reclassified and renamed to make it sound like collectibles, collectible adverts, collectible books, memorabilia, as if you're not actually using it for its purpose anymore. It's not worth anything as its design purpose. It's only worth something as some sort of antique or item of value. It's only got a monetary value, not a functional value like an advertisement is to advertise. They've reclassified them all sort of as something that is taxable rather than untaxable. They've made sure they reshape it and redefine it so it goes in the taxable box, whereas Bezos as team player Jeff has focused mainly on books, which people don't have to pay tax on, but those books aren't cheap. I don't think you get a bargain on books now, not for big books or beautiful books, because, you don't pay tax. So that just means they've got more profit to themselves, they're not doing you a favour. The government don't have to, God knows what Bezos is doing with taxes, but I know these big companies don't even have to pay certain taxes. I suppose if you're buying books off Amazon, you're not paying tax on the books, but they put the prices, they're so expensive now that, it goes to the company instead. So I know for the digital services, YouTube, what YouTube have done is what they're saying when they start saying you're not eligible for monetization. What they're actually doing is looking at you, and actually you're not eligible to pay tax. Well, that's a good thing for you, because you don't have to give the government money out of the profits. But what they've done is, rather than say, have you got a special category there? That's good for you. You won't have to pay tax. So instead of setting you up with a special category, they've said, right, we're not giving you a category. In fact, we're not even going to monetize you. Now, what would you do if they just said, we're not going to have you on the platform? What would you have done if they said, we're not going to, we're not going to let you even be on the platform? That would mean that they were not letting political videos at all on the platform, or charitable organisations on the platform, or educational, on the platform. Now, that would be ringing discrimination alarm bells. There would be some serious discrimination alarm bells ringing off if they started trying to say, you can't have an, educational. They wouldn't have it. They wouldn't have a channel. They wouldn't even have a platform hardly. They would hardly have a platform on there. I think in some countries, movie companies don't even have to pay tax, ironically. So, so I definitely think there's something dodgy going on with the tax on YouTube. Really, if there's a lot of countries not even paying tax on movie production companies, then it makes you wonder, should any of YouTube digital services be paying tax? Now, maybe a lot of them aren't, but I think they will be, because I know that, because it's just the way that the newspapers are doing it. You shouldn't really be paying tax on printed advertisements, because the newspaper is not taxable. When you buy a newspaper, there's no tax on it, and small adverts aren't taxable. So they're charging me tax. So they've got a scam going where not only are their prices through the roof, but they're charging a fortune on top of it with tax. And it's really preventing us from getting into the newspaper and getting political and charitable things heard unless you're a big one and doing well, growing it. If you can't advertise, how do you grow and become large? And this is the thing, they've bought up a lot of these big charities and taken over a lot of these big charities. That's why now we're starting to realise some of these charities aren't that trustworthy, and what actual work are they doing compared to small independent charities, like John Campbell's doing in Africa and things like that. So they really have kind of nipped it in the bud. They're not helping nurture you grow. And what actually happens is people end up, just doing a petition or a political cause when it matters to them. When their village is under threat, then it's like the fire alarm's going off. You desperately fight for your life to save the village from, the fields or the horses or whatever getting, destroyed and the industrial estate getting planted in. But what happens is people are minding their own business until they're forced into political action or charitable action, and then they usually fail. No one's helping them with the taxes for the money when they're buying things and trying to promote it in the newspapers and so forth. And these corporate entities are getting all these McDonald's, KFCs, industrial estates, more traffic, more houses built. When they want to keep it a quiet area, they might not want it to become a really noisy traffic area, So, and then you end up falling out with your neighbours who, you objected to, building there. And then you've got, teenagers, all these knife stabbings, Rishi Sunak scratching his head. He can't believe why all the crime is. Yet, he's just banged a factory next to there and built more houses. Then you've got warring neighbours. Sunak, really, I can't but laugh at these people. They're making all this legislation. Oh, there's knives, oh, there's guns. People are fighting and arguing. While there's, immigration problems, they're stealing all the money, giving themselves more profits and mansions and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 houses, and getting gangsters in the charts, rapping about gun crime and so forth. And then they're putting them on TV and so forth. And then, they're complaining that there's knives they're saying that there's something wrong with the people, there's something wrong with us, and then we need more and more laws and more surveillance, right? It's the greed of the corporate, and then the councils and the civil courts are in with it because they're the ones who are, getting all these things approved. It really is a case of we could be protected. What they're doing is they've disarmed us. They've disarmed us with right. They've disarmed us with law. They've disarmed us with money, and we can't grow groups that they can oppose and stop them. They've nipped us in the bud with that. And then when people resort to complaining, turning up in groups, actions and so forth, then they start putting new laws through that you can't even, send a craft knife in the post. It really is. It's all greed. I have no sympathy for these people now, and they say they're doing us a favour. Oh yeah, but we've got eBay, you've got YouTube, we've given you these platforms. Well, no, my channel's been taken down. I wasn't doing no harm to anyone. It was actually an evidence channel for a legal case, which is protected through standing orders of Parliament and through law. And there's a requirement to publish through subpoena from Parliament to collect witness statements from the public. And YouTube have just been blatantly brickwalling us. They want to beat you, and they want to whoop you, and they want you all their factory minions, and then they want you to sign up to their policies where you don't have any laws or rights that you voted for. And you all have to sign your souls away. I don't sympathise with them. And, then you feel bad. You feel bad when you're criticising Sunak, guilt trip. Then it's a guilt trip. Oh, oh, no, I'm being nasty to Rishi. Oh, get the guilt trip out, These people have got no guilt for these billions and trillions. So why should we feel guilty, when, where people are turning up, smashing buildings or windows or whatever they're doing in France, these people have had no guilt at all. No guilt at all. And they are promoting their charities. Oh, look at this charitable work we're doing. We're helping charities out all around the world. But what they're actually doing is they're poisoning other smaller groups who could start their own charities. And also, if they kept them relatively small or even grew them into big charities, they really haven't really been helping them out at all. Yet they claim they help charities. They help the charities that they choose to help and that they like and that they invest in. And then they've got non-profits that they don't have to reveal who's been putting money into these non-profits and so forth. It is all scam. And people have got to the point now where, they're trying to say we can't say this or we can't say that. They're trying to this. Then you've got Larry Fink controlling behaviors. We're going to control behaviors. You control behaviors of a machine, of a robot that's programmable. A human is not supposed to be programmable. Well, he wants it to be programmable, and the biggest box tick they've got is I am not a robot, as you are signing your soul over to their policies and agreements which give up a lot of your rights and freedoms. Well, they're claiming it does, but it actually doesn't because it's illegal and unlawful. There's so much discrimination going on here that it makes you sick. And they're the ones who are guilt-tripping us all and putting all these laws through, more and more discrimination laws when their companies that they are got shares in are doing more and more discrimination between more and more channels. You can't be monetized, you can't be monetized, you can't be monetized, you can't say this, you can't say that. Now Russell Brand can't, have any money. They are the most hypocritical people. They're either stupid and they don't even know what they're doing, or they're just liars. And then we are the ones who are bad, and we are the ones who must have the law changed to control and chastise us. Yet, where is the control on these people? You're only allowed to make, no companies can exist over 1 billion. No one needs £1 billion profit saved up. Here's my library. Look, here's my library, What's the point in having public libraries? On eBay with these collectibles, if you don't pay tax on books, it doesn't matter how big your library is. It's my book collection. Look, here's my vintage book collection. Well, none of them are taxable. I've got a collection of books, but as soon as it's on eBay, collectibles, no. Collectible advertisements. Well, you're not getting these advertisements made to advertise anything. You must be collecting them. They're collectible advertisements. Well, here's my library of advertisements. They're collectible. but why is eBay charging tax on them? Collectible books, a library. Collectible. This is my library of advertisements. They're not taxable like books. This is now we're going to tax, but now we're going to tax them. This is now we're going to tax them. Because they're collectible though, so you must be collecting them for monetary value, not like no. There's my collectible books. I'm not going to read them all. Look, this is my library. It's like Jim Hara. Hello. I'm inviting Jim Hara. He's the chief executive of the, Inland Revenue. Look, would you like to come and have visit my library? Oh, come and read some of my books. You might not get through all of them, though. It's a big collection, In fact, I might never read some of these books. I just got them to look at, from admiring the shelf from a distance, I've got to look at this, this is my advertisement collection, Well, I can't see any of them. They're all sideways. Well, at least if they were books, I could read the spine on them, Some part of it's still readable, Was he putting, like, stick them all on the wall? All my walls are covered in vintage advertisements. You know, every time I have guests around, just, oh, look, it's an old Mars bar advert there. Oh, I fancy, actually, it's making me feel a bit hungry. I might go buy a Mars bar. Do they still make them? Yeah, of course they do. Oh, that work. It's still working. That old Mars bar advert's still working. You know, this is it. But they seem to, on eBay, have turned it into some kind of wording, so it sounds like that it's taxable, you know, taxable advertisements, you know. So there's definitely some cons going on with the tax on a large scale. I don't know why we should be paying tax when Jeff Bezos has based his entire empire on taxless books. You know, it seems silly. So, you know, I don't know why we should be paying on. And then there was all that issue with all the American stuff, you know, on whether it should be taxable, on the box packaging should be taxable. Actually, there is a section on taxable packaging, but I think that they were trying to make out that everyone might be like shipping, you know, solid gold, you know, people might be trying to, you know, smuggle you know, precious metals by, you know, lining their cardboard boxes with lead or something. Or, you know, I can guarantee you, you know, no one's, you know, people aren't, you know, smuggling, you know, pack of tea bags over in a solid gold box and not declaring it. You know, I severely doubt that there's enough gold to go around everywhere. You know, we must have a rich nation, you know, Americans must be loaded. You know, Robert F. Kennedy was saying that the average American hasn't got $1,000 spare. So I can't see how everyone in America would be shipping things to England in, you know, solid gold, you know, boxes, you know, solid gold cardboard boxes. It's not going to happen, is it? Because, you know, maybe if they did do that, they might end up getting rich. But, you know, I don't see us with the £1 billion businesses at the moment, you know. So I really do think that furlough trick was a bit of a con. That, you know, with the whole, oh yeah, we're going to give you some bit of money now, you know, put everyone on furlough and give them a bit of the taxpayers' money back. How do you make the books balance? You know, maybe the thing is, if you've got a charity, right? If you've got a small independent bookshop and you're selling books and you're making a living out of it, then, you know, I think people shouldn't be paying tax on books. But, you know, once these companies, you know, start getting really, really big, it's starting getting ridiculous when they're actually taking ownership of these businesses off other people, and then they're selling all books online. You know, people aren't paying tax on them, but they've taken the business off everyone. You know, it's kind of like maybe there's something wrong. All these excess trillions, you know, Charles is boasting of, you know, excess trillions. It's wrong. It is a it's not, money is meant to be there to use, and then you're meant to save up money to buy something that you can't afford at the moment. Like they used to say, oh, I'd like to get, you know, a car. It would be nice to have a car. Well, you have to save up and get one. No, now I've saved up. Now I can get it. These people aren't saving up to get a car. They've got like 20 cars. They're not saving up to get a house. They've got like 5-10 houses. What are they saving up for? Oh, so they can have a new technology and innovation centre, so they can do a bit of philanthropy, so they can do this and that. They're not. They're actually hoarding. They're not saving up to buy something that they can't quite afford yet. What they're doing is they're keeping the money from places that it needs to be used in. Money is there to use. And they're also controlling the money. Oh, I'll decide where the money goes. I'll decide who needs the money and who doesn't need the money. This is the problem. Because, you know,